Can you stay shredded year round? We're here to talk about shredded sustainability. How can you get in shape and then stay there? How can you get to whatever level you're at now, get to this new cool level that you're happy with, and then stay there? Getting yourself to the point where you're satisfied, happy, excited, whatever it may be, that might be the hardest part of the journey, because if you're somebody that has to lose, 100 pounds or 150 pounds, you might lose 100 pounds and then change your mind and change your goals a little bit. Because now you realize oh shit, I had a little bit more body fat on me than I thought, and I'd still like to continue to make progress and get in better shape. But if we're to think about how does somebody stay relatively lean throughout their life without weights, without extra activity or exercise? Normally, people that are thin, they can be fidgety, right? They like to just move around. So their non-exercise activity thermogenesis might be higher. They just like to move around. But usually the number one way they're going to stay lean is via food or lack thereof, not eating food. Food, in my opinion, is time. The more food you eat, the more time your butt has to be on a treadmill. The more calorie dense, calorie rich, carbohydrate driven, and fat driven foods that you eat, the more time you're going to be spending trying to figure out how to work that off if you overate it. What is overeating? Well, overeating by definition would be making the scale go up. So if you weigh 30 or 40 pounds more than you did in high school, then you made the scale go up. You're eating too much. You look down, you look at your belly. Are you eating too much? Your belly tells you right away. Your stomach is not supposed to hang over your pants. Your fat is not supposed to get squished in when you have a waistband on your clothing, as long as it fits appropriately. You're not wearing a small and you're actually a 2X. We shouldn't see, sometimes you see on some people, you see in the lower back, you see a chub crease kind of poking out of the back of the shirt, even when they're kind of wearing a baggy shirt. So there's different levels, that we have here in the United States and now throughout the world, of people having excess body fat on them. How do we get rid of it, and how do we keep it off? How do we keep it off forever? And I think I don't want to say only way, but one of the few ways to keep it off, I think, in my opinion, is to have a good knowledge base of a handful of different strategies. So that way, going into certain environments, certain things, you can utilize particular strategies. Last year, I was pretty much very low or no carb from October through January. And that felt really good for me. I was eating steak. I was eating whole eggs, some bacon, some omelets here and there. Not crazy amounts of fat, but there was fat in the diet for sure. 60, 70 grams a day probably. And it worked really well for me through that time period because there's so much accessible food. There's so much family time. You stay indoors a little bit more, a little colder. And so you end up in these situations and predicaments that would otherwise be difficult to defend yourself in. But because you have particular knowledge about particular styles of diet that you could utilize, you can kind of chameleon your way or ninja your way. You go to reach in your tool belt and you're able to pull out another tool. It's not like you reach to your tool belt and you're out of tools, right? You have enough tools to be able to handle the job that you're about to do. And the job that you're about to do sometimes is, hey, I'm going to burn fat. I'm going to lose some body fat. Other times you want to just sustain and maintain and kind of float there, hang out there for a little bit. And maybe that's what you do around the holidays. Maybe that's what you do on vacation. Maybe that's what you do. You just try to mitigate weight gain, try to keep it at bay. And then there might be other times of the year where you're like, you know what? I don't want to put on like a lot of fat or anything, but I'm okay with putting on a little bit because I want to gain some strength and I want to gain some muscle mass. And when you do that and you toggle back and forth between some weight loss, fat loss, some muscle gain over time, that 170 pounds of muscle tissue that you have in your body now goes to 172. Your fat, might scale up a tiny bit, but hopefully the 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 pound swings that you get for muscle mass, hopefully that muscle continues to stay, but the fat will rise up a little bit, but then you continue to dig. You continue to dig, you dig, and you dig that body fat down as the muscle mass either stays the same or increases. There's many different diets that you can utilize, and I think the more know-how that you have, I think the better off that you are. We also need to be like logical and understand that you can't just completely smash food all the time. Sometimes when it's on your own time, sometimes you kind of can because you cooked up a bunch of potatoes and you cooked up some white fish and you're just going to throw some salt on that and you're going to have some vegetables with that. And of course, you can have 2 servings of fish. And of course, you could have 2 potatoes if you really wanted to, right? Like that's not going to cause any damage. But sometimes you're at a restaurant and your best option for a steak is a New York strip, maybe to cut some of the fat off of it. Or maybe you don't want to cut the fat off. Maybe you just want to eat it the way it is. Or maybe you're at a restaurant and you're like, F it, I want to just go for it. And I want to eat. I still want to eat fairly healthy for me, but I want to really enjoy my food. Well, that's when you can maybe order like a ribeye. But maybe you had some shrimp cocktail before that. So you had some leaner sources of protein first before you got the fattier meat. Maybe you had a salad as well with, get balsamic vinegar, not balsamic vinaigrette, balsamic vinegar. Most restaurants have it. Dump that on there. There's no fat in that. And then you eat the ribeye. You get halfway through eating the ribeye and you're like, man, I got actually pretty full. You eat some of the potato that you have with it as well, or the rice or whatever came with it, some vegetables. You're done. You save the rest for some other time. You eat the ribeye the next day. And so you actually just handle that situation in like a reasonable way. Rather than consuming 60 grams of fat, you just maybe consume 30. You really made a big difference in your daily caloric intake and really just made a big difference in your overall fat consumption. And these are the decisions that you have to kind of like learn about. You can also do this, for example. As I was mentioning, going through those winter months, very low carb, that's another option. You can say, oh, I know at this outing that my family has, this 4th of July party or this barbecue that I'm going to, the barbecue is on Saturday and it's Monday. Well, maybe for part of the week, you're like, I'm just going to go a little bit more low carb. You bring the carbohydrates down. Or maybe you just do a couple things in preparation going into that barbecue where maybe you fast a little bit. Fast in, fast out is something I've taught for years. I talk about it in the War on Carbs book. Fast in, fast out. What's fast in, fast out mean? Fast into a situation, fast out of it. Fast into a situation and fast out of it. Why not? Doesn't that make a ton of sense? Oh, I'm going to this Christmas party and it's at 6 p.m. Okay. Maybe in the morning after your workout, have some egg whites and some oatmeal, maybe a protein shake or something, and then fast the rest of the day. Don't eat anything. And then you eat whatever you want at this party because you wanted to eat and drink. That's perfect. And then you fast out of it too. Party's over. Everything's done with. You stuff your face with like one extra thing of cookies on your way out the door. Perfect. Maybe you eat something when you get home too, because you feel like kind of being a pig. But the sooner that you stop, the sooner that your fast starts. Fast in, fast out. So as you fast out of that, let's go with like, hey, you know what? Let's utilize intermittent fasting right there. Let's plug that in. So 16-8. So your last meal, was at 10 p.m. or something like that. See if you can go until 4, 5, 6 p.m. the next day. Something like that. Whatever would equal out to be, 16, 18, 20 hours. Try that. You don't want to actually do a regular fast? How about this? How about your sugar fast? Coming out of that party or out of that situation you were in, where you decided to eat a little bit of whatever, you utilize a little bit of a sugar fast. Next day, you wake up, and hopefully you're not that hungry anyway, but even if you are, you have some berries, you drink a thing of apple juice, start your day, maybe hammer a little bit of cardio just to feel good, take a shower, go off to work, and then just whatever day of eating you have scheduled, you can go into. Or you could, bring more fruit with you, bring a banana with you to work, some dates, eat a couple of those. Now it's 5, 6 p.m. Back to lean meat, back to low fat, back on the saddle, back in the game. You're only one meal away from being on your diet. You're only one meal away from being off your diet. But if your diet is a Swiss Army knife, then you're almost never off of it. And we also have to make sure we're not lying to ourselves, because it's not smart to blend keto and high carb. You don't want those two things too close to each other. So we don't want to have a day where you're sugar fasting all day and you're consuming a lot of sugar, and then by night you're doing keto. That doesn't work that well. Keto, by the way, usually takes a little bit of time to get into. So a 4-to-1 ketogenic diet, where you're having 4 calories to 1 calorie of fat. Sometimes it's also described as like a 1-to-1, like fat to protein ratio, or sometimes it's a little bit higher in the fat. But like usually, in my opinion, what works well, 1 gram of fat to 1 gram of protein seems to work really well with a ketogenic style diet. And you should be producing ketones at that level, at that amount of fat. But anyway, a ketogenic diet sometimes takes 2-3 days to even get into. Even for people that are experienced with it, people have been doing it for years, to be like ketonic and ketogenic, it takes a bunch of days usually to get into it. So a keto diet's an interesting one, but it's hard to utilize intermittently for short periods of time, as I'm alluding to here today. However, you could also say, hey, I know I'm doing a hike and it's 6 miles, or it's 12 miles total, 6 miles out, 6 miles back. Well, I don't want to be a little bee on that trip, so I'm going to train a little bit for it, but I'm going to train myself metabolically. I want to be metabolically flexible. I want to be able to use my fats and my carbohydrates. So maybe for a few weeks you do very low carb, you do a little bit of keto, and you sprinkle in a little bit of carbohydrate in there so your body, is utilizing both. You go on this hike with some friends, and you're 4 or 5 miles in, and your friends are all like, trying to have some sugary carbohydrate and stuff, and you don't feel like you need it. You feel good. Blood sugar feels good as long as you have good electrolytes. Bring enough water with you whenever you go on a hike. Whenever you go on a hike, bring liquid with you. Have some salt in there. Have an extra packet or 2 of some sort of hydration type product, or have like a literal salt shaker with you, because you never know. and ask somebody, how long are we going for? Oh, is there shade? Oh, what time? You know, like somebody says, yeah, we're going at, 11 o'clock. And then you look at the UV and the UV's 12 at like 1 o'clock. Well, then you know that you're going to be out in that crazy UV, that crazy heat. And you say, hey, why don't we start at 6 a.m.? You know what I mean? Like you try to find something else, find some other. And also if there's no shade, you can get really screwed. So, but anyway, you're going to be running more efficiently if you, not necessarily more efficiently, but you could be feeling pretty damn good utilizing a ketogenic style of nutrition going into that, because it's easier to have, like for long duration stuff like that, where your heart rate is modest to low, you're burning fat the entire time. And the human body is very confusing and very tricky. And so it's probably burning like literally whatever it has. But in my opinion, you're hiking through the woods, you got an extra 10 pounds or so on you. Your heart rate's probably never really climbing above like 140. And that would put you in like zone 2. And that would put you in, for most people, zone 2. And that would put you in a category of being in this like perpetual fat burning state rather than a carbohydrate burning state. And the amount of hours you're going to be out, it's like we need both macronutrients. We need fat and carbs, right? And we need protein. We need all three. They're all going to be beneficial in this case. But my point being that little preparation beforehand could kind of save your ass, could help you make you feel a little bit better during that particular hike. So we can utilize different diets for different predicaments, different pieces of time. We also don't have to be so tied down and tethered to just like one system or one thing. I know recently I've been talking about low fat and I've been talking about like no fat. And I still think that's important. I think it's important to experiment with. I still think the sugar diet's important to experiment with. I'm utilizing it today. All I had today was some fruit. I had some dates. And I had some blackberries. I had coffee early this morning, but it didn't really have any calories in it. I think it just had the only calories I had was from collagen. There's a little collagen in there. So yeah, today's an FGF21 party day. Today's a day where I'm, sugar fasting. I did the same thing yesterday. I did the same thing for the last 3 days because I knew I was going to be in here talking a lot and so forth. And I felt like this gives me the best opportunity to put in the best performance this way, and then also have a really good performance later on today when I go and train. And I intend to train very hard. Yesterday, got a good training session in, did probably 8 sets of back, single arm hammer rows, probably did 6 to 7 sets of that alone, actually. And then I also did the seal row. I did 3 sets of that. That was fairly light, but that was still challenging and good. Then I did overhead bamboo bar presses. Did 4 sets of about 15 reps on that. Then did seated military. Did 3 sets of that, and that just scorched. My shoulders were completely on fire, just completely torched. And then I finished up with doing 5 sets, 5 reps each side of hammer swings hitting the tire. And so my workouts have been looking like that lately, where that might not seem that strenuous, but like the sets of the rows that we did in the very beginning were pretty heavy. So they were pretty challenging. So the workouts are awesome right now. The intensity is great. And the way I'm eating right now, in my opinion, gives me the best opportunity to have the best workouts and be the leanest simultaneously. As I was finishing up that workout, I went home and I wasn't like that hungry. And so I was like, I don't feel like really cooking anything. I don't really want to eat a lot. I don't want to but I do want to eat something yummy. I do want to eat something delicious. So I made up a protein shake and I dumped it on some Super Golden Crisp. And that was my carb source. And I had a good sized bowl of it, like a full bowl of cereal. And that was my day. That was my evening. So like I'm making choices kind of on the fly. Could I have made a better choice right there? Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I could have just had a protein shake and went to bed. Or I could have, cooked up some lean meat and ate a little bit of that and some rice and went to bed. And that would have been a little bit better decision. But because I'm in this for the long game, I want to be satisfied. I want to be fulfilled. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. And this gives me the best opportunity to really enjoy what I'm doing, is to give myself some of these foods that cause this hedonic response, that causes this mood elevation or mood smoothing out. It's like, you go and you eat that and you're like, wow, that feels really good. And then I took a shower and I've just fell asleep instantly, fell asleep like a baby that sleeps well, not a baby that cries all night. So not being so married to one particular style of diet. Also, I think another thing to communicate about here is if we're doing this for more the long haul, let's talk about the long haul and the short haul. Short haul, bodybuilding style diet, but not only bodybuilding style of diet, bodybuilding prep diet. Short run. That's the short haul. Long haul could be bodybuilding style diet with a little leniency of some fats here and there, keeping the fats below like 30 or 40. And maybe once a week having a day where there's just a little bit more freedom, let's say. I hate saying cheat and all that, because then people turn it into like a crazy thing. But there's room for you to cheat, because we're talking long haul, right? We're talking about long term. We have to admit that deprivation isn't like a great healthy thing all the time. Depriving yourself of stuff, like there's some people that get themselves to a point where they're not depriving themselves of anything. Like the diet that I'm on right now, I don't feel deprived of anything. I feel really good. I feel like I'm in a good spot. I love the food that I'm eating. And even though I'm eating next to no fat almost every single day right now, I love the results that I'm getting. And I love the way that I feel right now. And my blood work it wasn't impeccable. It wasn't unbelievable, but it was pretty good. And with that being pretty good, then I start thinking more about like the long haul. Okay, hopefully the blood continues to go in a good direction. And if it doesn't, okay, well then I just got some short-term, short-haul results. And I want to start to think more about the long haul and long-term. And I want to start to maybe plan for that and make some adjustments so my blood work ends up being a little bit better. If you want to watch that video, look it up. Mike Mutzel did a video on it. We also released a video on this channel where you can kind of check it out as well. Mike going over very diligently over my blood work and just, asking me questions and giving me feedback and giving me some suggestions. I already implemented some of his suggestions and also had some of his suggestions already implemented before I even saw the blood work, just based off the diet that I was on. I was like, I think it makes sense to have some B vitamins in here. So I was doing that. I think it makes some sense to have some liver support because of the fructose and the amount of sugars and stuff. And I already backed that down too. But I do take TUDCA. I take a couple other things to help with some of those situations. I do also take a GDA, a glucose disposal agent. It's called Matador. It's by a company called AD. I can't think of the name of the AD. I forgot the name of my buddy's company, but Joe Brindley. It's his company. AD Project. There you go. AD Project is what it's called. he makes some really good supplements. He sent it out to me. So I was like, I might as well use this. I usually only use that when I'm going to have a glucose or starch-based food. And you can see the ingredients. It's got like a bunch of different types of glucose disposal agents kind of all wrapped in one. There's many products like this on the market. So if you don't want this brand or you don't like a supplement that's in there, you can choose, whatever you think is going to be helpful to you. But I use this, again, it's mainly when I just eat rice or when I have like cereal. I don't usually use it when I have fructose and things like that. Can you read some of the stuff that's in there?
Yeah, it says it has vitamin C, vitamin B6, vitamin D3, biotin, copper, Chromax. It has glycoform blend, berberine, HCl, berberine complex, bioperine complex.
Got a lot of good stuff in there.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. So yeah, I utilize that. I don't think supplements do a ton, but they can be helpful, especially when you're trying to adjust your blood work. And a supplement like this, a GDA, a glucose disposal agent, helps you to clear your glucose a little faster. And my understanding is it's going to help you to dispose of the glucose into the muscle cells, but I could be wrong on that. It's supposed to improve insulin sensitivity. Basically supposed to improve your ability to handle carbohydrate. Now, I don't know if it can, if it helps you with your ability to handle carbohydrate when you discontinue using it, probably not. Things don't usually work that way. But while you're using it, especially if you want to consume like a pretty good amount of carbohydrate with a particular meal, then that would be a product where that's really appropriate. And I think that's where it works the best. If you're just going to sit down and have like half a cup of rice, I don't think you need it. But if you're going to have 2 cups of rice and you dump some sugar on the rice or whatever else it is that you do to sweeten it up, or you have teriyaki sauce or some sugary something or other, then I think it makes sense to utilize a product like that. So again, in the short term, we have these, bodybuilding style diets. We have a bodybuilding prep diet. You're hearing Cole start to talk about that. And he is telling people flat out, like, don't do the diet, don't do this diet. But he's also saying, hey, nudge, nudge, like, if you do this diet, it has really good results. And there's some truth to that, but I would say what I would rather see people do with a strategy like that, they're either going to commit to utilizing it just for a couple of weeks, but then you end up in the and then what category, because then you're stuck. Even though you did lose weight, even though you did get leaner, you're going to like not be as lean in a little while after that, which is not the goal here at the Single Digit Body Fat series. What we're trying to do here, Operation Get Less Fatterist, Operation Get More Leanerist, all the shit we're trying to do here is we're trying to get jacked and tan and then stay there. So if you think about a bodybuilding prep diet, just basically and just generally, you'll then understand that it's flawed. Why is it flawed for a diet for the masses? It's flawed for a diet for the masses because you do not have a particular time that you need to be on stage. You're not being judged. There's no judges. There's no event. Now, if you have an event and you want to be in better shape for it, that's when you can utilize a bodybuilding protocol. But you also need to understand what's waiting for you on the other side. What's waiting for you on the other side is not only a banana peel, but it's a banana peel, a couple boxes of donuts, a couple boxes of cookies, a couple tubs of Ben & Jerry's, a couple burritos, a couple tacos, a couple nachos, some Taco Bell, some Burger King, some In-N-Out burgers, some McDonald's, some chocolate shakes, some malted shakes, some banana splits, some French fries, some potato chips, some Doritos, and so on and so on and so on. That's all waiting around the corner because you deprived yourself for X amount of time with a bodybuilding style diet. And even some of the best well-meaning bodybuilders, I don't know if you can bring up that picture of Larry Wheels, but even some of the best well-meaning people have blown up after a bodybuilding show tremendously. They've really, you can see Larry Wheels always in tremendous shape, but he had an incident where he did a show and then he was like 60 pounds heavier, just like hours later. He was like, maybe it was like a day later or something like that. It was pretty nuts. We see this with a lot of the female competitors. They get in really good shape, they get really lean, and then they just have this like massive blowout. Their stomach just gets to be huge. They get to be bloated. They carry around a lot of extra weight, and it sometimes takes people a long time to get rid of it too. It's not like a 2 or 3 day, just like, oh, I gained some water. Oh, look at that, I have some edema. Yeah, Larry was showing his results like in a hotel room, I remember, and he was like, I think he pushed his legs in and they just stayed that way because he had what's called pitted edema. And he looks like a healthy guy. He always looks like he's in really good shape. You see any of the ones where he's like real fat?
Is it this one where he gained 53 pounds in 5 days? Or
Yeah. That's what it is.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah, you can see. I mean, Larry Wheels is like, he's in incredible shape. He's incredibly muscular. So he's only going to look so terrible, right? But yeah, he blew himself out, blew himself up. And you see that a lot in bodybuilding because the diet itself is flawed because it has to do a lot with just like timing. And I think if you're more aware of that going in, you can see it looked like he like swallowed he swallowed a pig or something. The more aware of it you are going in, the more you can do about it. So like for me, I was aware of that going in. People told me about that. And so therefore I was able to completely avoid the bloat and the weight gain. I gained some weight for a little bit. But it's like, I think I maybe gained 15 to 20 pounds, which sounds like a lot, but it was 15 to 20 pounds. And it was like several days later. And then 2 weeks after that and a month after that, I was like, okay, I want to be within 10 pounds of where I was. And I did that. And then even I was like, okay, 6 months from then, I only want to be within 10 pounds of what I was on stage. And then I did the same thing with a year marker of saying, okay, I need to be like under 250. Because I was 235 when I competed. And right now I'm actually right around 215, 220, kind of depending on the day, depending on what I ate. So from that day on, I've been able to stay in better shape, but it's only because of my awareness. And it's only because of the fact that I'm a nutritional ninja. I've talked about this a bunch of times. I know what tool to bring out for particular situations. Not everyone has that knowledge. And I'm not saying I'm smarter than everybody or smarter than anybody at all. What I'm saying is I have a good understanding of nutrition and I know what's needed when. And that's really important. So even though we're talking sugar diet, sugar fasting, we're talking, low fat, we're talking all these different things. Hey, what about knowing a lot of it? And what about utilizing a lot of it? What about that? Like that seems pretty cool. To be able to use different diets for different particular situations. You go to a restaurant, you look at the menu, you're like, man, they don't really have shit that I can, You're like, okay, well, I might be over my calories for the day. No big deal. I'm out with family anyway. And I just want to have some fun. But maybe it's a carnivore meal because like all the carbohydrate stuff you see on the menu just looks like shit. And you don't want to feel like shit. And if you just throw back a big old steak that you're going to feel pretty good. And you have, some appetizer. It has like a, shit, I can't even think of the names of the different carpaccio I was thinking of. That's like raw, raw beef, shaved like raw beef. Those are really good. Tuna. Sometimes they have like tuna appetizers that are really good, that are very low fat, just has like some sauce on it. Maybe there's a little fat in the sauce or a little sugar in the sauce or whatever, but probably not a crazy amount of calories in those sauces. Depending on the type of place that you go to, sometimes it has like a seafood platter. Sometimes you can get like oysters. So like I look at certain things certain ways. Like an oyster, okay, oysters have fat in it, but oysters are very high in DHA. DHA is very important to us in many different ways. It helps us to utilize and sequester the sunlight. It kind of makes us a more powerful, it makes us a more powerful solar panel than we already are. So DHA has some really good utility. The fats that are in the oysters, I hate the term good fats, bad fat. I kind of hate some of that stuff. But the fats in there they can be very healthy. They're healthy for our development. They're healthy for our brain. So it's a good decision to eat something like oysters. Plus, I like the taste of them. You got oysters, you got mussels, you got clams. All these things can be like little side things. And you're not going to get filled up on those. But if you order a handful of appetizers, you order 3, 4, 5 appetizers, and you're eating that and enjoying it with other family members, the time your actual meal comes, you're not going to have as much room for it. So maybe it helps you to be more satisfied with the meal that you ordered. You can always try to remember that the leaner you go with meat, the better everything else is. Not necessarily better tasting, but the better everything else is going to be from a calorie perspective. So if you want to eat a burrito, and again, you're at a restaurant, or you're at a taco place or whatever, try to go with the chicken rather than the red meat. I mean, you might need to look it up. I'm not really sure exactly what meat they use or whatever. It's all a pain in the ass, really, and you should cook a lot of stuff at home. But the leaner meat is going to give you a leaner food in the long run anyway. You start to make these decisions over time, and you get it without sour cream, you get it without guacamole, or you just pick one or the other. It doesn't have to be you get nothing, but pick one or the other. You're like, all right, well, I'm just going to have it. I really like guacamole a lot, so I'm going to have it with guacamole. There you go. Or I really love cheese, but if you get cheese, sour cream, guacamole, you run into the same problem with a sandwich. It's not necessarily the cheese. It's not necessarily the mayo. It's not necessarily the bacon. It's a combination of all of them, because the turkey and the ham have virtually no fat in them. I realize that those lunch meats aren't great from a quality perspective, but they're lean. Ham and turkey are very, very lean. But now you're having it with bread, and now you're having it with mayo, now you're having it with cheese, and now you're having it with bacon, or ranch dressing on there, or whatever the hell it is sandwich that you got. It's just turning into an absolute monster because you have 3 sources of food that are very, very high in fat. And things like dressings and oils and stuff, these things need to be pretty much removed from your diet permanently. Mayo, dressing, and oil. Mayo, dressing, and oil. That'd be such a great start to a dietary intervention, is to just remove those. There's some people that probably have some oil because they people are obsessed with using oil when they cook, which you don't need oil when you cook. You do not need oil when you cook. You don't need oil when you cook. You don't need oil when you cook. People use a Foreman griller all the time. They don't put oil on it. You don't need oil on it. You don't need oil on anything. You don't need oil in your pan. You don't need, think about your food when you grill it. You don't put oil on it. You throw your food in the air fryer. You don't pour oil on it. You don't need oil. Everyone's obsessed with oil. They take oil and they just dump it. And I don't know, if you've been in some nice restaurants and stuff before. I've been behind the scenes at a couple places, and it's absolutely disgusting. Disgusting how much oil they use. It's disgusting. You're man, you're ruining very, very high quality meat. And you're also ruining a lot of people's health with just, forget the seed oil stuff. Just a blatant abuse of calories. Think about two giant tablespoons of oil. It does nothing for you. It might add some flavor. It might help kind of bake things into the food. Okay, I get it. I understand. I see what you're saying. I'm not blind to that. Could you get a similar result by taking a little beef tallow, throw it on the back of your spoon, and then lather the pan up with the back of the spoon. And now you just had like, and then like if there's excess oil, like because you messed up, because you just grabbed way too much, dump some of that shit back out, and the pan is still greased. The pan's still going to work good. You still get a sear. Don't cry about it. But yeah, people need to break themselves of some of these fatty foods. You don't need them. Starting to replace some of your yogurts and stuff like that with fat-free yogurts. Starting to replace your cottage cheese with, I know that there's people that try to sell you on like, oh, you need the fat. Well, maybe, but like you don't need that much fat. And when you have fat hanging off your body, you got fat all over the place, that fat is going to be utilized as your energy source. That fat is still fat. It still has fat soluble vitamins in it. Unfortunately, like whatever you ate in the past, that's the fat that sticks to you. So those could be seed oils. Those could be PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, that don't have like the most desirable results in the body, but you need to get rid of them. And as you get rid of more and more of them, you start to reformulate and reform your body and make your body better overall over a long period of time. I think it's important that we just understand this ability that we have we don't have to be sworn in, like I hereby will never eat any fat ever again. And then they smash a gavel on the thing and then you're like, phew. Or you got 15-year sentence. Phew. So like no fat. That might be kind of cool because you might be ripped at the end of that 15 years, but it's probably too much for most people. And when you end up with too much, and then you end up rebounding, going back the other way too much. So instead of doing that, understand that you have these options that I'm laying out here for you today. You can utilize these different options as you see fit. You can also, you don't have to just utilize these options just for particular scenarios. You can utilize these options just like daily, you can utilize these things weekly so that you don't find yourself binging. You don't find yourself at the bottom of a pint of Ben & Jerry's, because you're already kind of accounting for that with the style of eating that you're doing. So let's say you go like Monday through Friday and you're like under 20 grams of fat every day. Well, maybe Saturday you wake up in the morning and you have an omelet and you eat a little bit more normal. You still have protein-derived stuff, but you're eating a couple things that your taste buds, your mouth, your body just wanted to feel and you wanted to enjoy it. So you bring your fat up to like 70, 80, 100. It's not like a cheat, right? But it's like a little gift to yourself. It's a little thing to yourself. Imagine doing that every Wednesday and Saturday. You're just giving yourself a little something, right? You're giving yourself a little something on those days. And those things that you're giving yourself shouldn't lead you to some sort of downward spiral. It shouldn't lead you down a horrible, horrific path, because these are still nutritious foods for you. So you did a really good job with your vegetables for the week. You did a great job with your fruit for the week. You did a good job keeping the fats low. And now it's the weekend and you just want to do something a little different. So maybe you make an omelet. It's got like 2 whole eggs in it. It's got, 5 or 6 egg whites in it. And you cook up some pancakes for you and your kids. And you try to make them low fat. You try to put a bunch of butter on them and stuff. And you sit down and you throw some maple syrup on there and you hammer that food. And it's like, okay, it has a little more fat than some of the stuff you did during the week. Maybe you did put a little bit of butter on there for flavor because you just want something a little different. And that's the start of your day for that day. And then you go train. And then lunchtime hits. Maybe you make a sandwich, but you make some of the adjustments that I talked about. You're not having cheese, mayo, and bacon. You're just like kind of picking one thing. And then the evening comes around and maybe you say, okay, well, I already ate like, a little off plan today. So I'm just going to kind of like hone it back in and just end the night with really lean turkey breast and some pasta. Boom, done. Next day you wake up and you're like, I don't really think I cheated enough on the day before. Get it in on Saturday. Remember, this is the long haul. We're in it for the long haul. Do you know how long it took me to lose over 100 pounds? It took me over a decade, basically. It's a decade of work, 10, 15 years worth of work. And it wasn't until recently to where I finally got rid of not all cravings. That's a little ridiculous, but I got rid of almost all my cravings. And it took a long time for that to happen. And it didn't happen until I started messing with the single digit body fat series, which then led to the sugar diet. And the sugar diet really helped me a lot with cravings. It helped me to park those cravings. I'm sure, again, I'm going to Scotland and into Ireland. I'm sure in that 2-week time frame, I'm going to eat a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I'm sure there's going to be certain days where I just say, F it, I'm going to have whatever the famous thing is from that area. Fish and chips is really big over there. I don't care that much about, I never cared about French fries. It's kind of a gift, I guess, that I have, is that I don't care about them. I'll eat them, but they're not good. I'd actually rather eat a potato, to be totally honest with you. If you give me a baked potato with salt on it, I'd love it. But I don't need my potato fried, I guess. Not for me. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to enjoy some food over there, make some changes, make some alterations, and do my best. But they're not going to have lean meat really anywhere. Maybe I'll go to a restaurant or two during that time I'm there. And also the places that I'm staying at, I can cook. So I'm going to cook up a bunch of lean stuff. So whatever anyone's going to eat, I'm just going to eat lean stuff with it probably. So it's not like I'm not going to participate and not eat other things that are cooked up. My brother-in-law is Scottish and he's going to probably want to cook up some cool Scottish stuff. I'm going to eat it. But I'm also going to probably buy the leanest whatever I can find, whether it's a steak or chicken, probably chop that up, have at least 6 to 10 ounces of that with whatever the hell else it is that I eat for dinner, so I don't overdo it. But when you start to really understand diet and you start to understand I can run off of carbs or I can run off of fat. And you can be in the middle. Make no mistake about it. You can be in the middle and you can lose weight, but then you end up tracking and counting calories. And I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that. I'd rather have you making good food choices. I think in the long run, most of the people that even are proponents, some of these people that have apps and stuff, and they make a lot of money off people utilizing their apps, they don't count calories. A lot of these people aren't count. Most of the people you talk to when they've been doing this for a long time, oh yeah, I don't counter track. And you're like, what? That's all you ever promote. That's all you ever talk about online. They don't actually do it. Because you don't need to track. How many times do I have to try to say this or get this? Maybe I'm not a good communicator, but it doesn't make any sense. Oh, I'm going to track chicken and broccoli. Makes zero sense. Why would you track chicken and broccoli? That's so stupid. It doesn't make any, it's like, what are you doing? It would make more sense if you tracked when you cheated, but that's when people track the least. And that's when people underreport the most. They'll say, oh yeah, the other day I at this barbecue I had, this and this, and they kind of make it seem small, make it seem like no big deal. But really, they were at this barbecue for 6 hours and they cleared out the chips. They were just hammering. It's crazy, man. Once you get into this world, there's no turning back. Once you see what I've seen and once you start to understand these things better, there's no unseeing what you start to see. Things start to stick out like a sore thumb. Your aunt who's always talking about how she can't lose any weight, you're like, well, she stuffs her face with chips the entire time I'm talking to her. And she's dipping it in some sort of nacho cheese type thing or something like that, and you're just like, well, okay. people are lying to themselves so bad about their nutrition. I swear to God, I don't know what happened. I put on 12 pounds. You're like, well, I got some ideas on what happened. I don't know what's going on, man. The scale won't move. It's not going anywhere. Well, that's because you got to be really active. You have to be really, really active in the maintenance of your body weight in order for that scale to start to move. And if you're somebody that's already lost weight in the past, it's going to be harder to get that scale to move. And there's also, it's also just harder for somebody that's been very heavy to lose weight and keep it off. It is actually harder because you made new fat cells at some point. And so, yeah, you got some of those fat cells to shrink, but you have more fat cells than someone who's thinner, who never developed those. So you have more adipocytes, I think they're called. And those are going to be easier to reactivate. Those are going to be easier to fill with lipids and fill with glucose and have them expand again and have them make you more fatterist and have the vicious cycle starting all over again. Over time, when you start to make the right food choices, you start to understand, start to realize, and you start to feel how much better it is on the other side. You're like, I don't want to go back. And every once in a while, you still go back because you're addicted. You are addicted. And you need to question yourself. You need to challenge yourself. You say, why is this still a thing for me? Because some people actually have bought this story and they believe the story that they're lazy. And you're only as good as your thoughts. You know, you can't be better than the way that you think about yourself. If you think about yourself negatively, you can't be better than that. You're stuck. You can't really think one thing and sort of believe another at the same time when it comes to yourself. Because there's some sort of truth to that belief that you have that you're fat, or that belief that you have that you're fat, lazy, that you fill your mind with a lot of can'ts and things that you don't think that you can do. There's some sort of truth linked to that, and that's why you're tethered to it. You haven't broken away from it. But the correct food over time, the right food choices over time, and the correct foods can be foods that actually taste really good. They don't have to be foods that don't taste good. I wrote on Cole Robinson's channel the other day, he mentioned lean meat, starch, vegetables, and fruit. And I repeated what he wrote. And I said, all those things are amazing. And somebody commented back and they said, you're crazy. I'm crazy? Lean meat, starch, fruit, vegetables? Holy crap, man. That's the best thing. That's the best thing the world has to offer. Anything else is a copycat of what nature has already made. And or combinations of what nature already made. Think about honey. Think about a date. I think actually sugar, cane sugar, a lot of times comes from dates. Comes from dates and beets. The table sugar that you have. Maybe you can look it up, Ryan. It comes from something. You can't make something out of nothing. But everything, like almost everything that's really sweet, it's trying to like mimic honey or mimic molasses or mimic sugar. I mean, think about how all the different tastes that you get from fruit, all the different tastes that you get from vegetables and stuff like that.
Did you say cane sugar comes from dates?
I think so. Well, just sugar in general, I think.
It says no, cane sugar does not come from dates. Cane sugar is extracted from sugarcane, a tropical grass, while date sugar is made from dried and ground dates. Yeah, and there's like something about beets and I guess cane sugar might be in its own category. Maybe just like look up whether sugar comes from dates and beets, because I think that, but I don't really know the difference. I don't know what cane sugar is versus
But yeah, I think just regular table sugar has. Anyway, the thing is that whether it is or it isn't, even cane sugar is like a thing, you know?
It says, yes, sugar can be derived from both dates and beets, though in different forms and through different processes.
Well, there you go. And also, like I was saying, even with cane sugar, again, it's still from nature. You know, these things they're from nature. These are things that nature has made for us, and then we try to make a 7-Up. You know, and 7-Up is what? It's lime and sugar. Like, it's just a combination of what nature has already made in certain amounts of volume. And you throw like bubbles in there, and you throw like other stuff in there, so makes it even more addicting, right? It makes you want to drink it even more. But yeah, all these things are like, there's stuff that already exists, and these are the best things that we have on this planet. These are the best, and people are so far removed that they don't even know that that's food anymore. Like, imagine you're eating, imagine your food if you think that vegetables and meat and fruit and starch aren't that good. Like, what are you eating? Because even if you go to In-N-Out Burger, okay, you're not eating lean meat, but you're eating meat and you're eating starch. You're eating a potato. I mean, like, what in the world is going on around here? Our taste buds are just so hijacked. Hijacked taste buds, you know, taking people from the Four Seasons to 7-Eleven and dropping them off and being like, here, you know, don't live off of the food that they have at the Four Seasons restaurant ever again. Just go right here into 7-Eleven and enjoy the Slurpees and the weird hot dogs that have bacon and eggs, and like it's like a breakfast something or other, but no one really knows what it is, but it's got like 65 grams of fat and it's not that big. Yeah, eat that, you know, and get used to some of these gas station flavors. Get yourself some Starburst and some Doritos and some sweet tea and a Slurpee and whatever else. And have your taste buds just be bombarded by that for 30 years. And then you might make a comment like that guy made about how he doesn't think that those foods taste good. Those natty foods. Well, that's what happens to people. You got desensitized. Your taste buds got raped of their original format. Your taste buds are designed to detect a little bit of sweetness in some like mother's milk when you're a baby. And that's like about it. It's like, oh, okay, here's some sugar water. And the baby suckles on that and really enjoys it. It's like coconut water. It's kind of what you're drinking. You're drinking something that's like mild. It's not so jam-packed. It's not concentrated with so much sugar and so much stuff. So our taste buds have gotten completely out of whack. And that's what makes it difficult to communicate sometimes. People are like, I don't know what to do, or I'm not sure. It's like, man, you got to cook your food. You don't even necessarily have to meal prep, because you can have canned chicken in your pantry. You can have canned tuna in your pantry. You can have protein powder just sitting there, just waiting. You could have 000 yogurt or whatever your brand is that you like. You can have vegetables. You can have fruit. If you have a hard time trying to figure out how to keep everything fresh, have stuff in the freezer. Buy a big old bag of frozen vegetables. Buy big old bags of frozen fruit. They don't taste as good, really. But frozen cherries and berries, just leave them out on the counter for half hour. And then eat them. They're freaking awesome. They're like, even a cherry actually is really awesome because they sort of get like mushy. And then there's like a cherry like juice around them. So good. There's so many options nowadays to not be fat. We have to reverse our field. We have to cut back. We have to go against the grain. We have to start heading in a different direction. It's my goal with the single digit body fat series and the resurrection of the single digit body fat series, and in talking about things like the sugar diet and empowering you guys to understand that a lot of different diets can work. Just because we found sugar diet does not mean that we have to leave all these other diets in the dust. It doesn't mean that they don't work. There's a lot of ways to maintain your body weight. It's just, unfortunately, when it comes to getting really lean, there's usually less and less ways, or it gets to be more and more tunnel vision, or it gets to sound more and more the same. Meaning that if you're trying to go from 8% body fat to like 4% body fat, you're going to have to reduce the amount of food that you eat. Your face is going to have to get sucked in. You're going to have to probably have some bags under your eyes. You're probably going to need to do some cardio. I say probably, like I don't know 100% for sure, but probably going to need some cardio. And your macronutrients are going to start to dwindle. And in both cases, whether you're on the keto side or you're on the carb side, 2 macronutrients need to be wiped out. Ain't that a bitch? It really is, right? And isn't that the sugar diet? By the way, isn't that sugar fasting? Doesn't sugar fasting whack out 2? It whacks out, whack-a-mole, whacks out 2 macronutrients. It knocks out protein, and it knocks out fat. Ketogenic diet, coming from the Robert Sykes side, coming from the side where there's not as many bodybuilders that do it, but there's some that do it with some success. Coming from that side, they blast a lot of fat, they blast a lot of protein, and they don't eat any carbs. As the contest gets closer, they're going to either have to lower their protein or they're going to have to lower their fat. They might lower both. So they might be lowering everything, right? On the same thing on the carb side, when somebody's hammering a lot of carbohydrate and they're trying to get super duper pooper scooper lean as they get closer to a competition, they are going to have to make some decisions and some sacrifices with not just the fat macros, because they already wiped them out. They already annihilated them. Now they have to go from 800 grams of carbs a day to 300 or 400. Still a nice amount of carbohydrate, but lower than what they were doing before. So in all these different cases, when you start talking about getting really, really lean, you can go broad to get in shape. You can go pretty broad with the recommendations. To get in shape, exercise every day, some degree, some form of cardio or some form of lifting. You can do cardio every other day, lifting every other day, some sort of something every day, some walking, some steps, some something, because people aren't active anymore, so you have to tell people these things. Move around a bunch, lift a bunch. I think lifting's great because having that muscle tissue on you is going to help you in the long run. But the general advice with the diet can be pretty wide when you're pretty wide. The thinner you are, the more narrow you are, the more tunnel vision we got to be with the message that we have to get you even leaner. Does that make sense? The fatter that you are, the wider that you are, the fatter the information I can give you. I can give you general fat information and just say, hey, don't be so fat. I can just shake you by the shoulders. Say, hey, be less fat. Wake up, be less fat. Be less fat. And you can say, I don't know how to do it. You say, well, how about just mainly eating like natural foods? Right? And then what are natural foods? Okay, got some meat, you got some eggs. Those are some protein sources. And then you have potentially some grains. You got some rice, potatoes. And then you have, vegetables are fair game. Eat as much as you want of those. And fruit. And there you go. If you're on that diet and you're pretty chubby, you're going to go down here. Then you come back and you say, hey, man, I lost 40 pounds, but I'm kind of stuck. And then we have to give you more narrow advice. We have to say, all right, well, let's actually lean the protein out a bunch. and let's see how that works. So then you come back and you lost another 40 pounds. You're like, oh shit, I'm stuck. I need more help. And now we have to kind of figure out, what do we get? Okay, you're already working out every day. Shoot, there's nothing we can really do there. It doesn't make sense to do more there. Don't want to take up more of your time there. Sleep's pretty good. Your food's pretty good. But you're like 12% body fat. Well, now it's time to suck it up. Suck it up, buttercup. And this is where you might utilize protein leveraging and primarily have your body running off of some protein for a brief period of time or intermittently mixed in with your normal bodybuilding diet. Or you might intermittently utilize the sugar diet. Might intermittently utilize sugar fasting every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where you do it for 20 hours, something like that. And then you come back and you say, hey, I lost more weight, but I'm stuck. And then I'm like, okay, well, listen, if we go into the next phase, then you're going to actually misappear, which is different than disappearing. It's misappearing. My son made it up when he was a little kid. And it does mean that you vanished, but that's what's going to happen to you. You're going to go, whoosh, you're going to misappear, and that'll be the end. And some people might want to do that. They might want to get so thin that they misappear, but I don't recommend it. Anyway, hopefully you learned something today. I really hope you did. In the comments below, let me know how I can kind of expand on some of the ideas I shared today. The more input that you guys give me, the more output I can give you back. So please don't be shy with sharing information. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell on Instagram. You can communicate with me here. You can communicate with me there. I don't always see these messages, but if you finish your statements that are made on here with a question mark, I will try to get to it. I'll do my best. That's kind of how I look for these things, is I scroll through, and when I see question marks, I do try to get back to you guys as much as I can. If you're not having any success there, then see if you can try to hit me up on Insta. If you're not having any success sliding into my DMs, then you might want to just actually make a comment. If you make a comment on my Instagram, I probably will see it and tell me, say, hey, jerkface, I'm a member, hook me up, like give me some love, give me a shout out. I'll work on doing that. We'll have Ryan try to be aware of some of this stuff too, because we're just getting our feet wet with some of this. It's going to take us a little while. Ryan's been getting killed. We've been doing like a lot of information. I've been getting killed, and I'm ready to go home and to go eat and to refuel and to give you guys more information in the future. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.